Alright, should be live, everybody. Welcome to tonight's stream. This is the Year 8 draft show in the Madden 20 Denver Broncos franchise. It should be a fun time to see this draft class that Blackjack has created for us once again. His classes have really fueled this series to give it a level of depth I've never had before, and we are going further than ever before, making a lot of big things happen here in the franchise, and we're not done. I have some new challenges in mind for the rest of the series, and I'll be showing a lot of those today as we preview this draft class at the same time. So, welcome everybody. As the chat fills up, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Amon, Chris, Sarah, Ryan, Joe, Johnny, another Ryan. What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well. Draft tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Time. Oh, you like the lights? I was streaming here at night, and I'm like, I got a chance to actually break this out. I don't normally set it up behind me like this, because it just wasn't meant to be set up like that right now, but I think it looks pretty good. That's a projector. It's just a laser projector. It's shooting like a blue nebula type of background, and then it rotates with these green lasers. I've seen it in a few YouTube setup videos before, and I really like it. I'm surprised you know how to do it. Plug it in, aim it at the wall. I could figure that out. Hope all is well. Thank you, Batman Gaming, for the super chat. I appreciate that. All is well. So today we're going to see the draft class. I have not looked at it beyond just like a few names at the top of the list. I haven't scouted anybody yet. So this is going to be just like the previous draft show we did for year 7. I get the draft class a little bit later, give Blackjack plenty of time to put it together, and then I'll do all my scouting tonight, and then when I'm done, I will screenshot positions and kind of create my own board on my computer and have all my prep there. So this makes it so Blackjack can just take his time with the class, wasn't time sensitive, and we can still draft and know information on the players. It's just a little bit different, but I think it works really well. Corville's still going to be traded, right? Yes, I want to trade Terrell Corville. That is going to be happening. I have gone through to do my player edits for ratings and contracts, and I had one player left on our team I wasn't sure what to do with, but I have updated the contracts that I already talked about. What's up with the background? Oh, I just thought it would be cool to throw that up, considering it's at night and I don't have a bunch of extra light in here, so it looks pretty cool. Between Houston and Livingston, who do you keep? I would prioritize probably Houston because of his long-term upside, but that contract isn't like small. Kane, I had a game in my Madden 20 Rams franchise where Aaron Donald had 10 sacks, 34.5 for the season. Love the franchise. Keep up the great work. I'm hoping Donald's on your team and you weren't facing him. That sounds like a rough time. Yeah, for the show, I really want to play. Like, I'm so excited for real baseball season. I definitely want to play the show and find a series to do. I've missed it the last year, not really playing the game. I played the show 20 once. It was live. I played it one time, and that was it. Hit a home run with Josh Donaldson, and that's all I remember. Yep, I'll be bringing back Super Mega Baseball. Oh, thank you, Brandon. I'm glad you're enjoying the series, and there is a lot to catch up on if you are not already up to date on the series. With all the seasons, all the episodes, we don't skip anything. We go into too much detail, if anything. Better more than less. Can't make it today, but hope it's a good stream. Can't wait for the off-season. This will be available as a VOD, Tommy. So if you want to catch it when it's done, if you have some time, it will be available then after the stream is over. But yes, the off-season, the main event is tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Time. Be there. I'll be live with 2 to 3 hour off-season. It'll be a really fun time, as always, with these blackjack draft classes. And this time I know we got to go into more depth than he normally does. And I'm excited to see what he's given us this time around. We'll be diving into it here in just a couple of minutes. I'm letting the stream fill up, and I'm going to show you the player edits and contract edits I came up with for our league. For NCAA 14, Steven, I mean, there's stuff I haven't done yet, but I'm just doing so many other things, and I have a couple other things in line to where I'm probably not getting to an NCAA series, a new one, anytime soon in the near future. I am working on the Kalispell Mega episode, and obviously I wish it was up so I could add context to the draft class, because there are players from that season that you don't know much about but ended up being in this class. So it'll kind of be a prequel when that comes out to see, okay, how did Montrell Griffin get here as the number 2 rated prospect? And some other players that are from Kalispell or other teams in the league. But that'll all sort itself out with time. I'll be trying to get that done as soon as I can. You're on year 6 right now? Well, you're entering a fun stage of the series. So get caught up as much as you can, and we'll see ya. How long will the docu-series be in minutes? It's hard to say. But it's going to be as long as I need to tell the story, and the story of this next Kalispell season. Like, it's not like this Broncos season where we just won, you know, every single game for a long time and there wasn't really a lot of change. The Kalispell season, you can't summarize it in a few sentences. I'll say that much. So the video, I think, will be on the longer side and not like half hour. I think we're really stretching it a lot more than that with what I want to do for it. So I obviously, so this next video is going to be one season, Jamie, the entire year 15. And if that goes well, I'll do another one. I'm going to be simulating regardless to get data for draft classes, but I'll do the future episodes if it gets a good reception and people want more of it. Alright, so I wanted to show you the editing I've done for the league. I wanted to make sure that there were high-rated players at every position, and to fix so many years in this series of lackluster XP sliders and development. So we did some of this live where I smoothed out the ratings from like quarterback and running back, just making sure there are players, you know, in the 90s and players that have done really well actually get their ratings boosted, because for so many years in the series the ratings were the XP sliders were lower. So players would go to Pro Bowls, they would win awards, but they wouldn't really become high 90 overall players because the XP sliders weren't cranked up high enough. So I'm making up for that lost time and development for a lot of players. So like Jay-Sean Warfield's an 89, Charquez Towns got the boost to 88, Marion Peppers to 85. The one thing though is that I didn't want to do it for any of the players on our team because I just felt like it would kind of be unfair, and I felt it more so affected these CPU teams that needed that extra development. So I went through offensive line and I made sure we would boost players like Quentin Nelson and Orlando Brown, Evan Harris. And I also boosted developments for a lot of players. Players who have been to Pro Bowls, players who have won Rookie of the Year, obviously not at offensive line. So I have changed a lot. I was considering boosting Norman Proctor because he was the highest rated center in the league at 86, which was just so low. And that's why I boosted Eric McCoy, Dane Pemberton, and Frank Ragnow. So, Pemberton, by the way, up to a 92. He was like stuck at 94, and he's a guy who's made multiple Pro Bowls, and he just doesn't allow sacks. Ever. So, those are the kinds of players who got boosts. And I did that for every position. So there are a lot more players now with a chance to grow, and a lot of players who now kind of get that credit backfilled so they can get high contracts and everything the rest of the way. Jelani Tyree got a big boost today. Anthony Nolan did. So I was wondering if I should upgrade Proctor. And part of it was like, he is supposed to be one of the best centers, but I also felt like his early years had him very overrated. He was allowing a lot of sacks. So maybe he's fine just staying where he's at. I didn't boost his contract. Now that the Eagles suck, can you do a franchise for them? Love the content. Have been watching since middle school. I'm 23 now. That sentence is wild. Watching since middle school. I'm 23 now. You're almost an old rookie. When I was 24 years old, I kept saying I was an old rookie. Now I'm 28. I'm really old now. Thank you, Brent. Maybe the Eagles are certainly getting closer to being in play for one of my projects, which is shocking because 3 years ago their roster was loaded. They won a Super Bowl and it looked like they'd be on top of the world for a while. So the other part of it was boosting contracts. And the reason I wanted to do this is because we got lucky with a lot of contracts. For instance, now you're going to see the edits, but Xavier Watts, we signed him to an extension when he was like a 78 overall, and that deal was worth like $3 to $4 million. The role he plays and at the level he plays it at, it was a very big bargain. And I wanted to make these deals more realistic. Part of that is that if the XP sliders were better, a player like Watts would have already been in the low 80s, demanding a higher contract. So I basically gave him that contract now that he should have gotten if the XP sliders were correct. And I wanted to find more deals that I thought could be more realistic. And the big one was Boogie Turners. I signed him when I think he was 92 overall this year. And I signed him to a $100 million deal. And in the effort to make things a lot more realistic, I just wanted this to be more similar to Aaron Donald's deal, which is worth $22.5 million a year. I made Boogie's 23. You could argue it should be even more because the salary cap in game is higher than real life. It's $230 million. Real life is a little bit under 200. So this is a little bit larger than Aaron Donald's contract. And I wanted it to have that kind of an impact because he's that kind of player. He just broke the sack record. We've won Super Bowls with him. He is the best defensive player in the league. And now he's paid like the difference maker he is. So the highest cap number ends up being $28.6 million. This contract saw a boost of 43% compared to what I gave him the first time around. Actually, it was $112 million based on my notes here. So if that's correct, then it was a 43% increase. I think a good long-term franchise for your next one could be the Steelers. One last hurrah with Ben and holds a limited cap. Also my favorite team. That is an interesting one. And I think that's a cool franchise template. Like you're not quite rebuilding. You shoot for a victory for a year or two, but then you know you're going to be doing some more difficult, challenging build. Possibly. So, Boogie Turner's contract has been increased to be very in line with where Aaron Donald's is in real life. I boosted Xavier Watts' contract, and I increased it by 103%. I felt like a player of his caliber and rating should get around $7 million a year, potentially more. So I doubled his deal. I also wanted to increase the deal for Eric McKinney. I did so by just 17%. Just felt like for his caliber and everything, this would be a little bit more realistic. I increased the deal for Donovan Jennings because I too signed him in the high 70s. He wanted like less than 4 a year or something like that. So I increased it by 25%. I increased Miles Jack's contract by 9%. Just a slight boost. And I also increased Eric Palmer's contract by 25% to be more realistic. Premier edge rusher, 26 years old. Those players get very big deals. All in all, I added $102 million worth of contracts to our team over the course of, 7 years or so. And I think that those deals are a lot more realistic now as a result. And I've started giving contracts that I feel are more realistic just because I want the game to be challenging and I want to help make up for some of the areas where either the game is lacking or my sliders have been lacking. I don't think I'll have to do this again. I have XP sliders in a much better spot, so players will naturally develop better. But I felt like this was a necessary step so that the series stays strong going forward and remains challenging. This last year, it felt more like a Kalispell season where we were just too good for so many teams. It wasn't the sliders. I don't think so anyway. I think it's just our team was so good and it really shouldn't fit salary-wise. Part of it is that for a lot of this stretch, we've had Boogie on the rookie contract, Eric Palmer on the rookie contract, and same with Akinjide. So the future will be different. The salary cap should be much more of a story this year, and it'll be very realistic. A lot more realistic. Thank you, Ahmad. Yeah, that's my projector I got here. This is the Bliss Light Skylight, I think is what it's called. Just a little light and laser projector. It looks pretty good on the background here. I like it. Oh, I have increased the XP sliders. I have significantly. But I need to help make up for all the years where they were so low and players didn't get great development. That's why free agent classes aren't usually that exciting. There are some exceptions, but overall, we don't see teams swap out players very often. Big name players aren't hitting free agency anywhere near the level they should. So this was all about getting the league caught up, and the XP sliders should take care of the rest going forward. And I'm excited to see what free agency looks like this year, and it might take a couple years for this to really kick in. So with that being said, I think the series is stronger now and will be a lot more challenging and interesting. Now, the Blackjack draft classes make a huge difference. Yes, I'll show the XP sliders quick. The Blackjack draft classes have just added so much to the series. He's done an incredible job. And this class is supposed to be very, very deep as far as his editing goes. I'm not sure if that means there's more high-rated players, but I think that he just did a lot more editing and messed around with unique archetypes at certain positions and unique players. So it should be a lot of fun to learn about the players tonight and tomorrow find out where they are going. And when it comes to us picking in this next draft, we have 2 second-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks, and 2 7s. So plenty of draft capital. Let's get to know this class a little bit. We'll go position by position. I will get out of the game, load it back in so I get my points back to spend. And I will take care of all of the data after stream. So here we go. The top of this class features 2 quarterbacks. We have a couple edge rushers, a tight end, and a couple offensive linemen. So really good spread here. In the top 10, a lot of different position groups are covered. And there are 4 first round prospects here at quarterback. There's also Antoine Morgan from Kalispell. You'll learn why he's a second round pick when I get to the Kalispell Mega episode. And OJ Cole is the Heisman Trophy winner for this year in the Kalispell series. He's a 4th round prospect, and you will also find out why when that video comes out. Any info on how the series will go the next season? Will I play all the games? When will week 1 be? And what are the biggest challenges I did except for Boogie's contract? Yeah, I'll continue to play all the games week 1. Don't have a date, but I'm guessing next, well, I'll probably do off-season edit and preseason next week, and then week 1 the week after. So, be pretty normal there. But as far as the challenges go, I mean, the main thing is going to be that contracts are a lot more realistic. The other part is going to be how much do I set aside for deals I haven't made yet. Jamari Akinjide's contract is next, which means when it comes to setting aside money, I have to be very careful about multi-year deals into the future. Oh, you like that, Franchise Gaming? Thank you. Yeah, I have not busted this out on stream yet. Usually it's just too bright in here, but now with it being nighttime, I can show that off a little bit. Yep, Ramzor is from the Kalispell series. He was the Cal quarterback. We've played him before. You'll see him in the Mega episode as well. So, when it comes to quarterback, number 1 player, Cameron Grimes from Cincinnati, a scrambler archetype. I wish that the top 3 gave us a little bit more info, but we're talking about a scrambler quarterback at 6'6", elite throw power, break sack, and short accuracy. Excited to see what his 40 ends up being, and I imagine he will be the top quarterback in the draft. Unless there's somebody else who has higher talent, because that's only mid 1. And this might be where I need Blackjack to give me a pronunciation guide. We have an early first round quarterback. Maybe he's number 1. Strong-armed. Chidi. Akechukwu. Akechukwu? I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. I'll find out from Blackjack. Was the face cam better in the left side tonight? I could move that. That way I'm not blocking the talent grade. So I need to flip then. Let me flip this. I like to keep it on the right because I don't have to transform my screen. I like to make it so I'm looking at the gameplay. So now I'm backwards here, so everything is mirrored. Ike Chukwu? That sounds like it could be right. Appreciate that. What was for dinner, Kane? Need ideas. A little chicken, a little rice, a little lettuce. Nice and light. Keep it easy. Thanks for answering the questions and also providing us with the best content. I appreciate that, Leo. I'm doing my best here. Appreciate all you being here. All right. Jeffrey Ramser from Cal. We have a second round talent here. Late 2. Ooh. Okay. Jackson Standiford from Colorado. Whoa. Early 6. Who's going to take him? Wow. Big chance of being overdrafted. Antoine Morgan. Early 6. OJ Cole. We have a second round talent. Interesting here. So a few quarterbacks that are a little bit overrated. Ramser That's going to be tough to develop. It's still possible. But it looks like 2 for sure starters at the top. They'll probably be the 1 and 2. Okay, then. Now, I'm trying to keep it pretty realistic here for the amount of points that I would normally spend in a season. And now I'm trying to remember, if you have the upgrade, do you get 300 a week? Or is it 200? I can't remember. Because late in the season, I kind of bank points up. So I can have a little bit extra for when we get combine grades. It's 200? That's what I thought it was. So I had it written down that I could scout like 106 players. So I like to keep that pretty realistic, so I'm not realistic. What am I talking about? Authentic if I were scouting on a normal weekly basis. So I'm limiting myself to 106 players. I think that's how the math checks out. You do 200 times like 18 periods of scouting, and you divide that by 30. Maybe it's not 18. Maybe it's because it's week 3 through 17 plus Super Bowl. I think it's 3,200 points. Whoa. What button did I just press? Every window just disappeared. What quick key is that on Windows? I don't even know. I think it's 3,200 points though. Divided by 30 is 106. I'm limiting myself to 106 players of data. So, that's 6. I don't need to know much about the quarterback class. I'm not drafting one early, but I like to know about the top players here. Grimes and Cheaty, OJ Cole, the most interesting here. Maybe Ramsor as well. And I should be able to easily get that. So that's 6. Let me back out, go back in. What position should be addressed early? I'm not sure that's the easiest question to answer. I think that there's going to be 1 or 2 holes that pop up just based on salary. So it could end up being offensive line because we're relying obviously on Zach Martin at right guard. Here's the roster right now. It could end up being tackle as well. Like, this isn't solidified. Guard is a question mark with Zach Martin potentially retiring. Defensively, I think that edge rusher can't be ignored because Chubb's a free agent. Deacon, he's played 2 years, but this is all we've gotten so far. So we might need to address that if possible. And then maybe safety, because Savage is also set to be a free agent. And after I made the contracts more realistic here, I just don't know who has to go and who needs to be replaced. So that's what I would think. I'm thinking we're going defense with it or offensive line, but it'll probably be more of a BPA situation. Do I think I'm getting a high dev player? Deacon on how many snaps though? That's a good question. I do my best to manage that. Let's see. So Boogie almost never comes off the field. That's 826 snaps. Deacon played 194. So he played a fair amount. That's a little bit under 20%. We only got 8 tackles. 2.5 sacks. 1 for sure was against the tight end. I remember pointing that out in an episode. So what I'm thinking right now is Deacon competes against somebody else next year, and we see what we have with him. All right, so quarterback has been addressed. Running back, we have 3 players here at the top for first round. And then we have a bunch of second rounders. I like this a lot because our league is kind of desperate for some young running back talent. A lot of the top players are still veterans. I can't see us going running back early, but it looks like the top of this class should have some good options. Should I go in order here, or should I start just addressing needs of mine because I'm giving myself a limit of 106 players? We could switch. Why don't we, let's focus on needs. I want to talk about safety because that's where we have Xavier Watts at 27 years old. We have Darnell Savage set to be a free agent. And there might not be a lot of early options for us if this becomes one of our big needs. It could become a free agent situation. So let's scout the best. Well, that's a good start. Darian Wakefield from Auburn is a late first talent. A- hit power, B+ pursuit, and B zone coverage. He could easily be a target. We have Julius Higgins from Ohio State as a 4th round talent and then a significant drop off. If you want to draft a strong safety. Ooh. So this isn't going to be the easiest place for us to draft a starter. You have one 1st round talent for sure, and that's Wakefield, who's a late 1st rounder. So you're looking at low 70s there. And then at safety, or strong safety, we have Brandon Edwards. Early 2 is in play. Run support, good tackle, pursuit, play rec. Worried about coverage there. Just, there's nothing there. You get such little information here. You get really 4 pieces. The archetype in the top 3. So at least if it showed like zone coverage archetype and the top 3 are all run stopping, I still know zone coverage or coverage in general is good somewhere. But here it gives me nothing. You're probably also looking at Watts moving to free safety next year. So a run support safety could be who we end up taking. And if you've watched the games, you know Xavier Watts is constantly put into situations where he's getting embarrassed because he's not a good run defense safety. He gets juked out, run over all the time, and I want to take him out of that role. Tyrell Bynes, a late 2 talent here. We get pursuit, hit power, zone coverage. He's also 6'4". So I'll be really looking forward to his combine to see if he's the kind of player that can be versatile and if he fits the role I'm looking for. But based on what I see here, I think Tyrell Bynes would be a fit, just not a day 1 starter. Who would I compare Deion Price to in real life? Deion Price. The first player that comes to mind is probably like Chris Johnson, that elite speed. And that home run hitting ability. Also ability to catch the football. He also reminds me a little bit of Raheem Mostert. Another burner. Curtis Samuel. Yeah, that's probably what his ratings would correlate to pretty well. There's a lot of Curtis Samuels in here. I like it. So I just scouted at safety 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. That brings us to 12 players I have scouted. Again, the budget is 106. What's going on here? My notes are getting messed up. My bad. Somehow I ended up erasing some notes earlier. They're all digital here, so who knows what I was doing. Maybe I had my hand on my tablet or something. It's not even working. Alright, never mind. That's 12 players though. Let me back out, we'll reload it. I think Tyreek Hill's faster than Devin Hester. I don't think it's particularly close either. Like, Tyreek Hill is like Olympic sprinter fast, right? Hester had the change of direction and just the elusiveness. One-on-one, you just can't do anything. Never seen this thing glitch before. How would my digital notebook let me down at a time like this? Alright, so we talked about safety, and that's not looking all that great. What if we want to talk about edge rusher? We'll start with defensive end. Love your channel, Kane. You should ask Blackjack to create a draft guide with more info on top 50 prospects, such as NFL comps, strengths, and weaknesses. Well, I'm hesitant to ask Blackjack to do any more than he already does. A ton of work goes into these classes. But a little draft guide or something, as he's coming up with ideas for players, could be cool. I'll have to bring that up with him. Appreciate the super chat. Thank you, Stats Life. I'm trying to reload my notebook here. This is what I get for trying to save paper, I guess. Last year I switched to just only digital notes. It's so much more organized. I can take notes on so much more meaningless stuff. Love it. Wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, you can't get Blackjack's classes on Xbox, unfortunately. The Madden share isn't cross download. Unfortunately. Alright, so defensive end. We could be looking for someone to compete for early snaps. Montrell Griffin, mid-1 talent here from Kalispell at 20 years old. 20. That's what the draft classes are reserved for when a player from Kalispell series declares as a redshirt sophomore. The earliest you can do it. Marquavion Hairston, early first-round talent from Georgia. Now, this is an interesting situation because would you prioritize Griffin at all or give him any extra edge because he's 20? Just the fact that you get all that extra time to develop. 2 years. The window for Hairston is obviously, you know, a 7-year window, but 9 years for Griffin. We have from Ohio State, Ted Ruslanovich, 277 pounds. Late 2 talent. He's a run stopper. So kind of a big base end. Juan Shirley, a little bit overrated. I want to start here with just the top players because I think for edge rusher, well, I guess I'm looking for even a mid-round player, but I think that if I take an edge rusher, it's probably going to be with one of those first 3 picks. And this could also be a spot where we look to trade up potentially. We have a lot of like 3-4 linemen here. So I'm going to stop scouting them. I'll move over to right end. Kirkland Lincoln from Michigan. Power rusher, late 1 talent, 23 years old. Don't have a pass rush skill in the top 3. Denard McDaniels from Boston College. All right, 21-year-old speed rusher, good finesse moves, 245 pounds. Denard McDaniels, also a scheme fit. Good positive there. There are so many 3-4 linemen in this 300-pound range. Markel Ingram from Kalispell. Okay. So this is if you miss early on. You can come back later. Maybe somebody like Ingram's available for you. UCLA edge rusher, 21-year-old Nathan Shiragane. Whoa, A- awareness and A- play rec. 233 pounds. Another lighter edge rusher, Jericho Knight. B+ finesse, speed rusher from Memphis. I think there's going to be plenty of options then for what we're looking for. Cole Baxter. Lower talent, but the top three's got both pass rush moves. That's always interesting. Another first round edge here, Jordan Rush. Early first round talent. Should go very quick. So those are all the top edge rushers. Let's get them all on the same board here. There are a lot of first round talents in this range. 6 edge rushers that could be round 1 players. The problem is they're all also projected to go first round. So moving up for one of these players might be required. There's no guarantee anybody makes it to 32. But if we end up having to take an edge rusher later, then I think somebody like Jericho Knight becomes the priority. 21, B+ finesse move, mid-2 talent. But you'd be missing out on all these round 1 players. How many are early first round talent? Hairston, 1, Rush, 2. Alright, so 2 really good edge rushers at the very top. Why is an edge needed? Because we're going to lose Bradley Chubb likely in free agency. And then we're left with like Trey Walker and Jazir Deacon. And I just haven't seen enough from them yet. So edge rusher could be something we consider. All depends. So here I scouted 12 more players. That brings us to 24. And good news, my notebook is working. I don't do trade-ups with players because it usually ends up being too easy. I made an exception when I did that time with Phillip Lindsay because I knew I was giving them a good deal. Have I thought about getting another DeAndre Hopkins type player in the draft? I mean, I'd love to. It's just that players like him don't come around all that often. I mean, taking a receiver with that kind of upside is tough. So, I don't usually go for that kind of home run unless receiver's one of our main needs. We'll see, because I am planning on trading Terrell Corville. And if I don't bring a receiver back in free agency or in another trade, all of a sudden receiver is a question mark, because Houston's set to be a free agent, looking around $10 million a year. He's 82 as superstar dev, so that contract's not going to be small. Have we seen enough to give him that deal? Would you be comfortable with a 4-year, $45 million contract or something? So we've already scouted 24 players. Who is the best wideout that's been drafted in this series? From an overall standpoint, that would be Rafa Augustine. I had to boost his ratings just a little bit, not much. But he is the best receiver drafted. Same team as Centarius Phillips. Augustine's played 5-6 years now. 1,000 yard year. I mean, these numbers don't really pop off the screen huge, but Pro Bowler. The problem too is that like a lot of the stats just don't reach the caps they do in real life. You don't get those 1,500 yard receivers very often unless you're controlling them. So like Tyler Boyd here at 1432, that was kind of a big shock. Most players don't get that close. He had a 200 yard lead on the next player, a 300 yard lead on third place. Here were the games that got Tyler Boyd there, by the way. His stats got pretty out of control this year. Very nice to see that. Yes, I also made an adjustment on our team. For the sake of realism, the chat convinced me that Nate Sheffield's development should drop. And I think that, you know, star makes sense based on his first 2 years of play. X Factor seems generous. I just felt it would be more realistic to do this. And I've tried to make more and more decisions like that as the series continues on. Like, for the sake of realism, this makes sense. The series is better for it. I'm going to do this. I didn't drop anybody else. That was just an extreme situation because he's an X Factor quarterback. All right. We're a quarter of the way through my drafting or scouting for tonight. We know that safety is thin. We know edge rusher is pretty deep as far as the top of the class goes. So why don't we now look at the offensive line? O-line in general. It could be guard, it could be tackle. So we have a handful of players projected to go early, but the early indication here is not that there are going to be very many first round linemen. I'm just scouting the best. Ooh. Okay, that's good. That's good. Guard might be a little bit easier to address. All right, I spent all the points there. Let's go to the board. All right, so we have some first round talents here. Starting here, Lester Thorne, one of the top rated players in the entire class, so expect him to go top 5, top 10. Left tackle from Wisconsin, 21 years old, 6'7". Tyson Scott from Alabama is a power tackle and has very good pass blocking ratings here in his top 3. Love that. Would make him a high priority for us. Potentially moving up. Ashton Bully, a run blocking specialist, it looks like. Early round 1 talent. We have Deion Jeffrey from Washington State, pass protector. A lot of times Blackjack likes to model players after the school they go to and like, all right, what kind of tackles does this school take? So when I saw Deion Jeffrey here, I didn't even see his stuff. I knew Washington State was going to be a pass blocker. And he had a lot of those like big edge rushers in like the Big Ten schools. Also, he's made the LSU running backs in the series bigger with lower catching ratings because traditionally LSU backs don't catch the football a lot. Clyde Edwards-Helaire showed that ability in college, but guys like Leonard Fournette always had questions like, can he catch the ball? Can he not? LSU just doesn't do it a ton. And there he is. Blackjack, what's good? How you doing? Hope you're having a good Friday night. Show some love to Blackjack, everybody, for all he's done for the series. And of course, once I am done drafting with this, Blackjack will have it available. So if you want just an extra class, if you're playing Madden 20, it's just nice to have classes that are hand-built so that you get away from a lot of the EA, just the typical way the EA classes go with like weird values that don't make sense and prospects that you feel like you've scouted before. Just that work, but trying to catch up. Well, we went through the quarterbacks. Very interesting there at the top. The safety class could be safety could be a target of ours. That's not the strongest part of this class. Edge rusher looked solid, and now O-line. There are certainly some good players. It's just you can't wait around too long or you might miss. So edge rush seems to be one of the deepest spots that we have scouted yet. Mid 2 here for Steven Dumont. A- pass block. I mean, he still has a couple standout skills. What I'm guessing here with Dumont is that there's a steep drop-off with his ratings. I mean, he has a B in his top 3. A lot of these players don't until you get to the lower rated tier. So I'm guessing that the running ratings here are pretty bad, and he's kind of a one-dimensional player. This is another spot, though, where I feel like if we really want to address it, we may have to move up. Deion Jeffrey could be an exception. Early second projected, late 1 talent. Still, though, he picked 32. So, yeah, he's a late 1 talent. He might go late 1, but we are the latest late 1 pick. So we just scouted another 13 players. We are at 37. Again, I'm scouting 106 tonight. Why 106? Because if I had my points from the very beginning with this draft class, that's roughly how many I would have scouted going week by week. So just matching that because I got the draft class literally this week. Most of the scouting tomorrow is going to be for later rounds and values. This is mainly about learning the top of the class and how we formulate a plan for the first 3 rounds. That's where the bulk of the draft is focused. Are we getting Marquavion? How high are we moving up in this case? He's going all the way up here. And we'll go through to see who has the top picks in this class as well and start to maybe build out a mock draft of sorts. Just a little plan. All right, 37 players scouted. We've done the offensive line. All right, I say we do receiver and tight end now. Even though it doesn't appear like it's going to be an early target of mine, regardless, I like to know the top 32 players projected. I want to know how that first round can fall. I want to know if a player falls, maybe why, like Kyle Marshall. Now I'll know, oh, he's late 3 talent, he shouldn't go round 1. I like to learn the first round top to bottom. So right off the bat here, route running specialist. I think Blackjacks wanted me to draft a route running specialist the entire series. Roshan Mashaka, all 3 route running. Is this a situation, though, like Marquand Clifford, where his catching is in the 50s? You don't know until you make the pick. Marshall's a pretty good route runner, but late 3 talent tells you there are some holes in his game elsewhere. Cornell McAllister, a route runner with 1 route running skill in his top 3, catching spec catch. Easily here, I think what Blackjack's trying to do is say, okay, Mashaka versus McAllister. McAllister is more solid, late 1 talent, but you have to overdraft him probably because he's projected early first round. So he's a guy who probably goes anywhere from like 7 to 15. Or do you go for Mashaka because the ceiling could be higher? Those route runnings are elite on day 1, but you don't know the catching. He likes to create those little mind games. For us, say we were trading Corville. The story was going to be that he was going to demand the trade, but I actually just want to trade him anyway because I don't think he fits our offense, and I learned that. I'd like to add a catch and run receiver. That's not really an archetype, and the top 3s are not going to get me there. I won't know who the catch and run receivers are until I see combine grades. I'm looking for 40 time, 3 cone. That has to match up. And then I have to get lucky. Because elusiveness, juke, those skills are just not going to show up anywhere in the pre-draft process for us. Moshaka is 5'10", 188. Why does that remind me of a certain receiver? Who else is 5'10", 188? Who is 188? That's really skinny at receiver. Am I missing something? You'd say he's Deontay Johnson, and I'd say that's a good thing. Okay. I think you're hoping with that route running that the catching matches up and he can be a high volume target. I'm looking for that Deebo Samuel type receiver, indeed. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. In the series here, Dallas Levine. Djax, ooh. Ooh, that could be like Djax measurables there. Devontae Smith, that's who I thought of when I was like, who is a notable, really skinny receiver right now? That's what I was thinking. What do you think I should get out of a trade if I give up a top 3 quarterback? At least 2 first-round picks plus another valuable asset, whether it's a pick or a player. That's kind of the minimum. If it's like an early first-round pick, a future first-round pick, and a defensive starter, then you got a deal you can do there. And unfortunately, the only thing you can do there is like 3 players or picks from one side to the other. That just won 3 chips coming off an MVP season. Yeah, I'd say 2 ones plus a solid player, like in the 85 to 95 range probably. All right. So I'm trying to find what receiver could fit. And I could see us prioritizing like O-line and edge first and receiver becomes something we talk about later, especially with how many third rounders there are here. Like there are 17 players in the top 4 rounds, but who fits? So I'm not just scouting the best players in this case. Lineman Spellman from North Texas. I like these ratings here a lot. I would get my route running, and the release tells you he can also, you know, play on the outside. If we give up Corville, I mean, we're giving up our best physical receiver, and that release makes him a very good deep threat. Lineman Spellman would fill that void and give us a route running boost. So I'm really interested in him. If you miss, just I think a worse version of him, although at 6'4", is LJ Molina. Again, you get the route running and the spec catch and a deep threat archetype. Oh yeah, the big question with these receivers always, and you know Blackjack is going to be a lot more creative with the ceilings and floors of certain players. You don't know if they can catch the football. If you don't have catching, you have to be prepared for it to be as low as 55. Honestly. Laquan Smith. Catching, spec catch, catching traffic. With that high ratings at those positions, I'm guessing his route running is not very good, or he's just really slow. Either way, trouble getting open there, which is an issue in Madden. I know, no fullbacks. I was shocked. I was like, is that a bug? Is it just not loading? I like Lineman Spellman. What about Sid Rollins from Minnesota? Catching, deep route running. Again, it's going to come down to combine because there's like certain physical traits I need for this role. You can't just turn a receiver into a catch and run specialist. But you can turn a running back into a catch and run specialist. So maybe there's a chance to get creative there. If we find a running back in this class that has the ability to play slot or something. So how many did I just scout here? I scouted 9 receivers, so now we're at 46 players scouted. And on that note, I think we are going to move to running back. A reverse Perry Cummings. 1,000 IQ play. That's what we're going for. All right, at running back, I want to see receiving backs. Jeffrey Silvers. This is way too early, right? Juke, carrying elusiveness. But you have to take him in the first round. Not many receiving backs, but Miles Thompson could be a fit there. Very interesting. There aren't many receiving backs at all, so I want to scout Dom Hampton because he's a first round player. Vision, break, tackle, carrying. So very solid. Probably going to be a very well-rounded running back. Day one starter for somebody. I'm excited to see where he goes. I hope it's not a place that's just going to keep him on the bench for 2.5 years and wreck his dev. Let's scout Apollo Burgess. Juke, spin, break, tackle. Mid 1 talent. Interesting. But to take a shot on a running back that you think could legitimately play a receiver in this offseason, that feels like something we'd be doing late. Just taking a complete chance on somebody. Like Chris Quinn. Late first talent. Juke, vision, carrying. Okay. Chris Quinn. There are your 6 running backs, getting us to 52 players scouted so far. It shouldn't be a problem getting an idea of these position groups with a 106 player limit. We've already gone through a lot of these. Let's see, a couple more positions here. Tight end is interesting with 2 players here rated very highly. 2 first-round players, and I want to know just how high someone's willing to take Trajan Baskerville, because he's got early round 1 projection and talent. Great top 3. He's 20 years old. Just like in real life, we're like, how high is somebody willing to take Kyle Pitts this year? Tremendous tight end prospect. How high is Baskerville going to go? And teams in Madden will take tight ends very early. So I think he could end up top 5. Malcolm Schmidt, late round 1. But still really good receiving skills here. I can't see tight end being something that we're looking that hard for. Sly Johnson, 2nd round blocking tight end. All right, Howard Cox has B catching, B short, C plus medium. And we also have to think about, you're always thinking about, okay, who's getting contracts? This is going to be one of the tougher decisions because I never look at tight end as one of the most important positions, but I really like Levi Summers. And this is set to be the last year on his rookie contract. And I don't think that his next contract is going to come cheap. Do we plan on signing him? I know that you look at his ratings, 79 catching, nothing here stands out, but he's a good route runner. He gets open, he catches passes, he's a good red zone threat. And if we lost him, that would be a big hole to fill. Led the team in touchdowns this year. So when it comes to negotiating contracts next year, Summers is a big one. Akinjide is a big one. And I think it's also going to be JT Granger's year. So we can't just spend whatever cap space we have on veterans on big multi-year deals without thinking about, okay, does that leave us with enough for Granger, who was outstanding this past year? Yeah, I do think Summers compares very much to somebody like Jason Witten. So it might not be a bad idea to take a shot on a later round tight end to give us, another option just in case. Or if we draft a good young tight end, it becomes easier to move on and save some money. Justin Forrester is interesting. Catching, run blocking at vertical threat archetype. Okay. That's 8. 60 players scouted. Yep, Miles Jack's contract's going to be coming up, so linebacker is something we can't ignore either. I'm glad that it seems we're going to have a lot more tough decisions upcoming now. It's really going to test my ability to prioritize players and decide where we can move on and if we can bring in players to fill in roles. So at linebacker, we obviously want to keep Akinjide. He's special. After him, there are some intriguing players I like. And I do think I could be willing to just develop who we have. But I should take a look at what the draft has. Somebody like Courtney Hayward could become the eventual Miles Jack replacement. But with these ratings, while they're solid, you shouldn't just say problem solved. You should see what other options there are. We also acquired Deontay Walker. He has 78 zone coverage, 85 speed. I like him. And then there is Alex Jarrett. Like, we have a ton of third linebacker candidates right now. There's also Toa, who has already been paid because he's kind of a utility player. If he had to fill in for Miles Jack, he could. He has 84 speed, 92 tackle. He's got decent enough awareness and strength. If he had to rush the passer for a little bit, he could do that. I like having, at a couple spots on the team, utility players. I like a utility skill player, a guy who can play running back or receiver. I like having a utility front seven player that can play edge, off ball, whatever. And a versatile defensive back. Alex Jarrett would be a beast at running back, you think? 80 speed, is that enough? 67 catching? 82 agility? So let's scout some linebackers. We'll start here at inside linebacker, beginning with Wisconsin's Ezra Frudenberger. A hit power, A minus tackle, A minus pursuit. Mike Galinsky. Derek Splinter. Looks like pure run stopping here. Good evening, Matt. How you doing? Anybody else standing out here at inside? Not a ton. Hammer Shield. Let's see some of the run stoppers I skipped over at the other linebacker spots. Luther Sheffield, Jedrick Thompson II. Rock Shabazz. Another good run stopper. Jeremiah McLeod. Marvin James. Garth Hartman. Angel Vincent. Hey Jordan, I appreciate the super chat. No message, but thank you for that very much. We're having a hard time here finding value, I think. Melvin Callahan. Top 3 doesn't tell me a lot. I mean, we see hit, power, pursuit, and tackle for a lot of players. I'm spending a lot of scouting here because I'm trying to find, like, all right, where's the guy? Where's the target? There just aren't many. There are a lot of, like, decent linebackers, and then a couple guys at the top that separate themselves, and even then it's like one. Galinsky here is still mid 2. That's 19 linebackers, and I wasn't all that impressed with the majority. Could be a spot where you just play combine numbers and try to project for athletes with, you know, time to develop. That's 79 players scouted. Meant to ask what I missed and if you'd consider doing anything with the college football revamp mod, but enjoy the extra cash. I appreciate that, Jordan. For future reference, if you just want to throw any sort of comment, it doesn't have to be a super chat there after a super chat like that, I will find it. I will pay attention. So you never have to send 2 if you do that on accident. But we've just been going through a lot of positions, and we've gotten through quite a few at this point. So I'd say right now, the biggest standout positions, I think edge rusher is where I think this class is strongest. There are a couple interesting quarterbacks. Otherwise, there's like a couple players at every position group that stand out, but nothing else seems to be all that deep. After doing some of this scouting, I think offensive line is deeper than some of the other positions, like linebacker. But otherwise, I mean, the top of the class is so balanced. So I think, depending on how the board falls, we should have a chance or two to take an impact player. I have not gone to corner yet, no, because that's one of the least important priorities. But corner is where we're headed now. What are the chances of moving a linebacker to defensive end? Anytime that I think that it makes sense. I mean, I move guards to tackle, vice versa, safety to corner sometimes. And a lot of the edge rushers, you know, are just listed at outside linebacker, and I'll move them. It's not a big deal. I appreciate that, 49er Tough. Yeah, it's the offseason, I think, for everybody is the most exciting. It's the chance for you to be the most strategic and to make the most impactful decisions. So the offseason, you know, I try to go into a lot of detail because It's like where you lay the foundation for the whole series, the whole upcoming season. All right, corner. On the surface, looks pretty deep. KJ Holiday. Anybody drafting him is certainly going to be celebrating. Whoa, early in the first round. So he's a blue chip player. Every now and then, Blackjack decides to give the class a few players where it's like, yeah, he guaranteed to be good. Can't miss. As close to a can't miss as we can get. Both coverages you care about, intangibles, 21 years old. Unless he runs a 4.78, and I don't think he will be. KJ Holiday, can't miss player. From DBU, Blackjack was LSU intentional. We've seen a lot of LSU DBs get drafted, at corner specifically. I mean, you got, going back 10 years now, but Patrick Peterson. You got, oh man. Well, somebody came to mind that I think went to LSU, but he's not like a top tier corner. Morris Claiborne, how about that? I remember when he was supposed to be a blue chip prospect. He turned out to just be okay for a few years. Of course, Tyrann Mathieu. I'm thinking just pure outside boundary corner. Of course, Jamal Adams, Tyrann Mathieu. Didn't Jalen Mills go to LSU? Why does that sound right? He went to Louisiana State. Yeah. I'm never used to seeing it put out in full. Like, LSU is just LSU. Who says they're going to Louisiana State? Oh yeah, KJ, there's no reason for him to drop very far. Oh yeah, Tre'Davious White. Big Trey White fan. Greedy Williams. I do remember blue chip prospect Justin Gilbert. I was not very high on him. I knew he was going to go early because he was size, speed, return skills. Like, NFL always takes those guys early. If you have the prototypical athletic profile and you've had some good play for a couple years at a big school, I mean, I didn't like Justin Gilbert very much, but I knew he was going to go early, and still I was surprised when the Browns took him, I think, at 8 that year. I just wasn't that high on his cover skills. Kane was high on Kyle Fuller in that draft. Yes, and then he went to Chicago. Thanks. Watts and Savage, both from Maryland. Ooh, the new safety university. All right, let's continue here. We have Tony Bonds, now a press man corner. You know I like press corners. Ooh, A+ press though. Early 2 talent. This could be one of those players that ends up with a lower 40 time, like a Amar Thomas, who went to the Ravens 6 years ago in the series. I appreciate that, Hawaii, for the super chat. Thank you. No message, but I appreciate that very much. Yep, Kalispell players are in the draft. There are quite a few of them, and I will do a better job of going through them when I finish all the positions here I wanted to cover. I'm going to scout basically all these corners in the first 3. I'm thinking somebody more in this range is realistic for us to take. Maybe somebody like Hassan Brothers. Good zone, play rec, man cover. 21 years old, time to develop. Joey Gray, press man catching, and a zone archetype. So I'm really interested in him. I love when the archetype and the top 3 contradict one another, because that to me says balanced skill set. If you show me a cover, like a cover safety archetype, and his top 3 is like hit power, awareness, tackle, I'm all over him. Need a Jason Verrett type player. Oh, I like Jason Verrett. I was happy to see him play really well. I didn't think he was going to, just because it's been so long. He's had so many injuries and tough ones to come back from. But he had a good year with San Francisco. What is my dream for Madden's scouting system? Something closer to like what the old Maddens used to have, with strengths and weaknesses listed and not just ratings. I think that you should be given rough, physical abilities for players. Like, this player is, you know, an elite speed player, or this player's strength is average. I want to know that before the combine. I want to see strengths and weaknesses. I think it's cool when they show the past year's production. That's always fun. I'm not a big fan of the top 3 system, though. I don't know why these coaches are saying not available. That could be a bug, because that's not even an option for you to choose. And there are 3 of them here, so must just be a really strange bug. Dexter Devine. Could this be Noel Devine's brother? West Virginia. Is Noel Devine too obscure of a player to reference now? Because I remember when Noel Devine was drafted. I think he went 7th round. Maybe? When was Noel Devine drafted? I don't even know where he was drafted, because his NFL career was so brief. He went to Philly, undrafted, and then went to the CFL. Import glitch. Okay, yeah, I can always do that editing, no big deal. I always pick him up in Madden 12 for no reason. Kick returner. Noel Devine, Pat White, Steve Slayton. Oh man, that was a fun time for West Virginia. Steve Slayton that year with the Texans. Oh my goodness. I almost bought his jersey because of that year. And I could not believe he ended up being a one-year wonder. That was heartbreaking. I feel like I have a few options here. Even Javi Morales. Like, I would take pretty much any cornerback from Brothers down to Divine, or... yeah, probably Divine. This range here gives me somebody to potentially develop. But the top looks good. And even these second round players, you know, A+ press, B+ zone coverage. A little bit more interesting than some of your typical second round talents here. So that is 10 more. I've scouted 89 players. Who is the greatest one-year wonder in Kane history? On my channel, one-year wonder. The first player that comes to mind is probably Steven Smiley, and that wasn't even a one-year wonder. That was like a 1 month wonder. Because then Barry Inseki took his old job back. Yeah, Justin Payne was on our Super Bowl team last year. Lamar Williams, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Did I miss anything now? I think I've gone through every position except for defensive tackle and specialist. So we'll spend a little time now at defensive tackle. Obviously here we have Boogie Turner, and then we have players like Cam Smithson and a few more backups that get a little playing time, not much spotlight. This is one of the weaker positions on the team outside of Turner. There is Cornell Bullitt, though, who has superstar dev. We got super lucky on him. So he's somebody we can continue upgrading. We have Redgrave, who's a good run defender. Could always use some depth here, I guess. So let's go take a look at D-tackle. Can we get a spun out Brightful for old time's sake? God, I wish I had some of those clips on hand. I should go find a couple. Oh man, Tyrone Brightful. I think he's still dizzy from some of those plays. All right, D-tackle, what do you got here? We're scouting first round players always. I want to know if they should go first round, if we can expect them to fall. Timmy Redding from Clemson. Of course, Blackjack had to get a good defensive D lineman here in the class. Alabama, good defensive lineman. I mean, we're talking about realism here. Boston College, Quandre Young. Ohio State. One thing we could do is try to find a run stopper that we can develop into being more than that to take over for Redgrave's role. Alan Johnson from Kalispell. How long do you want to keep going with this series, and at what point would you switch teams within the franchise? You already have 3 Super Bowls. I do. I want to keep going, you know, until the next Madden comes out. So I still think we can get through a bunch more seasons. And I have thought about switching teams, and I thought about it for this next season, but I wanted to first see if I could make things a bit more realistic and if that would add challenge. But me moving to a different team is very possible. I just know that it would be a little bit of a risk because everybody's like invested in Boogie Turner and all these players, and you're used to seeing every game of their career. If I switch to a different team, it would obviously change. But that still might be what is best at a point. Like if the games are just too easy and everything, I could move on and try building up a different team in the series. I'm not against it ever. All right, so that right there. 9 more players drafted. Now we're at 98. I think if enough people wanted to see me change teams, I would be down. And there are a couple in mind. Who would I end up going to? So the first 2 teams that come to mind are Miami, because I had to end my Dolphins franchise and they're one of the more intriguing teams in the AFC. I get to play with Jesse Heikkinen and some of those other veterans who have been developing. Also reunite with James Huggins. The other team would be Minnesota, the Vikings, because Brandon Warren's career is kind of falling apart and the Vikings are a mess. Jarrell Stoudemire. Ooh. 382 pounds, great power move and a run stopper. How'd I miss him earlier scouting? Wow, major standout. All right, so I've scouted 98 players. I gave myself a 106 limit. That's pretty good. What Kalispell players are in the class? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. So I need to find the notes I gave Blackjack. All right. So the Kalispell players in this class, of course, Antoine Morgan here at quarterback. Now, he only gets to start 1 year in the Kalispell Dynasty. You'll see how year 15 played out for him and how he became a prospect, but he was a redshirt senior that year, so guaranteed 1 year. He's in. Also, I thought he was rated a little bit higher here. Montrell Griffin, redshirt sophomore, early declare. You'll find out why he did that when I get to that video. Alan Johnson, I just showed you a little bit ago. Kevin Hampton at center is the #1 rated center. Forgot about him. Wide receiver, Josh Vincent. Release, catching, spec catch. Outside linebacker. I don't know which outside spot yet. Definitely right. Joe Owens. Oh, another one. I wonder if Blackjack made him. I think he did. Travis Clemens. Undrafted talent, but a height, weight, speed player. And at kicker, Brandon Hammond. Also, he made 6 punters. You can tell Blackjack was in the zone. This class has 6 punters. Deshaun Watson wants to be traded, but the owner refuses to. I wonder if Watson holds out next season. I feel like if he just refuses, they won't wait for him to cave and they'll just trade him. I don't think they would do that. Part of it, too, is like all these moves and everything here is either positive or negative advertising for your organization. And if Deshaun Watson is open about wanting to be traded and they don't acknowledge that and accept it, who's going to want to go there? Like, it goes beyond Deshaun Watson, then it's the entire organization. Like, how do they move forward? How do they get in free agents? How do they do anything at a high level? Because they're in the worst spot they've been right now, really, since they were an expansion team, the way I look at it. Their cap trouble, where their money's allocated, how they've built the team, the fact that they made so many aggressive trades and the guy who did it's gone. Now they have a new head coach trying to clean things up. The quarterback's unhappy. It's a mess in Houston. And they need to just rip off the Band-Aid here, probably, and trade Deshaun Watson, because they've wrecked it. They have to acknowledge that and start the rebuild. Now I've scouted 102 players. Scout more corners. I got 4 more players I could scout here. Oh, you like the lights, Eckler? Yeah, I kind of forgot they were on. I can't see them right now. I thought it'd be a nice little addition tonight. I suppose more late corners could be an option here. Jarrett Townsend. Not bad. I like those ratings. Floyd Washington. Devon Flowers. Alright. That's 106. 106 players individually scouted now. That's my limit. So what I'll do then is after I get all of this sorted, I will then use my points this week to scout a few of the players that are like my favorites and start to build a board of my favorite players. And I'll be all prepared for the offseason tomorrow. I've already done this before too. Last offseason I had to do the draft show and figure it out, and I've learned from that now and I know what I gotta do. So the offseason's tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Time. Full offseason stream here in the Denver Broncos franchise. The class looks really interesting. I'm excited, as always, to see where the top players go. So I wanted to take a look at some of these teams here and get an idea of who's picking at the top and what they could be looking for. So, the Chargers pick number 1. The Steelers follow, which is a shock. The Vikings, Patriots are up next. Well, there's going to be tiebreakers here. It's a mess. So, we pick at 32. That's all that's important right now. Chargers number 1. Where do they go? I still play Madden 20 because I enjoy this franchise and my slider set's fun. And this franchise that we're deep into is just interesting. Oh yeah, I can check out the legacy board. That's a good idea. So we know that the Chargers won't be going with a quarterback off the bat. I think Thorne makes sense. Baskerville, don't sleep on them going tight end number 1. That would be exciting for them if they did, just because they could use another playmaker. Montrell Griffin, I don't know if he would go quite that high. This could be Lester Thorne. Marquavion Hairston. A receiver also makes sense. So if they end up going with... wow, imagine if they went with Mashaka. But he's not an early first-round talent. So probably not a wide receiver. I've already scouted these guys. I think right now I'd have to think they're going Lester Thorne. But we've had many surprises before in the draft in this series, and it's one of the most fun parts of the entire offseason, is to see what the CPU teams do. Especially once we start to learn about who these players are and who we think the top ones are. Let's take a look at their roster quick. And then we'll take a look at ours. Does a tackle make sense? It already does. Yeah. They have Tyrone Harvey. Good tackle for the future. They could just solidify that spot in the draft. They gotta add a playmaker at some point, though. This team is not the same without Keenan Allen. At all. And there were a couple interesting running backs in this class. I wonder who could target one of them. Maybe Buffalo? I wouldn't, though. I'd play Nworu. What makes the most sense? Maybe Philly. 49ers could be interesting. The Jets. The Lions could really use the running back. Green Bay could go early. Ravens. So there are plenty of teams that could take those top running backs. A lot of options there. But how about at quarterback? Who has a need here? Depending on how he regresses, could be a year for the Bills. The Buccaneers could be looking for somebody. Dallas. That's probably going to be a spot. It's always exciting when teams take a quarterback in the first round in this series. I hope San Francisco doesn't. Stick with Scooby. I'm new to your channel. Just wanted to say I've really enjoyed your NCAA dynasties. Thanks for the great content. Are you considering another dynasty with another school? Possibly Hawaii. Thank you for the super chat. I think at this point, after doing 2 big dynasties, I'd probably want to do something a bit different and maybe do a coach carousel. Just because I haven't yet. And I think that would be a really fun challenge to go from school to school, focus on one side of the football. I think the main question is would I be an offensive coach or a defensive coach? Giants, what do they do? They stuck with Murray last year. Jaguars with Trubisky could be looking for somebody new. Lions, who knows? So a few teams stand out with quarterback need. Will they go first round though? That's the main question I have. The Festivus Challenge, you know I love Blackjack's Festivus Challenge. I did something similar on Madden 09 with a team there, a cupcake franchise. Haven't done something like that in NCAA. Special teams coach. Change Brian Watt's position to what? He's a running back. He got some playing time this year as well. Ryan Ramczyk was one of the biggest risers from what I created too. And I took some players and I boosted their development so their regression will be slower. Because like Ramczyk's awards and everything are off the chart. 8 Pro Bowls. So yeah, I had to make him an X Factor. Let's check out that legacy leaderboard. Number 1, John Madden. Number 2, Marcus Calhoun. Let's go to players, though. Can you go by just players? Brady. Von Miller. Zeke. 23 yearly awards. Khalil Mack, and then Boogie Turner. Already with 21,000, almost 22,000 legacy. Over Aaron Donald, his comparison. No Super Bowls for Zach Martin? What about the one we just won? What's Kamara's contract like? Good question. Still a year. Who would I compare Jamari Akinjide to? Ooh, he's like a blend of Derwin James and Deion Jones. Like, he's a very unique player. But he's faster. Isaiah Simmons. Yeah, I think that was who Blackjack had in mind when he was creating his ratings and everything. So as far as our roster goes, let's just take a look and think about where we could look at tomorrow in the offseason. I like Courtney Jean-Charles as the number 2. I don't think I'll be trading him this offseason. At running back, you never know with me. At receiver, the plan is to trade Terrell Corville. He does not fit our offense. He does not get the ball enough. He would want out anyway. It's a mutual decision here. I think that Corville will be best somewhere else. Tyrone Houston, a free agent. What happens here with him? He has not proved a lot, but he has high ratings. Do we make a move? Does another team make a move? Livingston's also going to be a free agent. Tight end could use somebody else to compete. Offensive line, I think that with a couple players getting older, Martin may be retiring. O-line is going to be a need. Defensive end, I like some of our backups here, but if they have to start and play all the snaps next year, what can we expect from them? What did Trey Walker do this year? He had 1 sack. I think he played a lot less than Deacon did. 74 downs. So combined, around 300 snaps and like 3 sacks. D-tackle, I don't think it's a priority, but there was one of the best values in the entire class at D-tackle. Yep, O-line always a need. Linebacker, planning for Miles Jack's retirement or him leaving to a different team is always something on my mind, but with Akinjide and the talent we already have, I don't think I'll prioritize it. At corner, Charles getting older, Granger set to be a free agent. I don't know if we're going to be able to afford Granger when that happens, so having a good fourth is necessary, and Tommy Jordan's also a free agent this year. And at safety, Savage is set to be a free agent, so does somebody else get a chance to start next to Xavier Watts, who likely just plays free safety this year and not strong. Can't wait to get to the offseason tomorrow. 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time should be a lot of fun. I think that the salary cap is going to pose a challenge after I made the contracts here much more realistic for Boogie Turner, Xavier Watts, Eric McKinney, Donovan Jennings, Miles Jack, and Eric Palmer. Some of the contracts weren't increased dramatically, but they are more realistic now. And we have less cap space as a result. I know, I feel like Jamil Garland's been here since before the series even began. Who is the most underrated player on the team? Underrated on the team. Who do you guys think? For me, I mean, I think JT Granger is good enough to be our best corner. I think he played like that this year. I thought Jordan was a lot better too. You say Wright? Yeah, Vashawn Wright was really solid. I could trust him to do more than other receivers on the team, is the main thing. Could be Bradley Chubb, just because he gets overshadowed by other stars, but he still plays at a really high level. I know he closed the year really well for us. Pretty steady. Eric Palmer's really good. We did sign Miles Jack after the very first offseason, and he's been one of the most important players ever since. Easily. I think the team's going to look very different next year, just because now Boogie Turner's extension kicks in. So does Eric Palmer's. We're also trying to set aside money because we know we want to keep Akinjide. But you can't keep everybody. We've paid so many players. This is going to be the offseason now where we have to start actually making tough decisions. If you want to have Turner, Palmer, McKinney, Akinjide, that means you can't pay some other spots. So where are the weaknesses going to be going into next year? Do we have to sacrifice anything on defense? We'll find out. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for tonight and the draft show preview. I hope you enjoyed the stream and are ready for the off season tomorrow. Again, 2:00 p.m. Central Time. It'll be live here on my channel, and then it'll be immediately available afterwards as a VOD. Video on demand. I'll edit that up. We'll get on to the preseason. Maybe I'll stream some of that. I always love streaming preseason games. And I'm hoping that we can still be excited about this team going into the new year. And if for whatever reason, you know, the excitement isn't there or it feels like we have to make a change, maybe we go one more year with Denver and then decide it's time to take the series in a new direction with a new franchise. But I'd like to continue playing with Denver and continue all these stories for all these players. That's it for tonight. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate all the feedback, just all the conversation, good vibes from everybody, all the super chats. Thank you all for your time. I will see you all tomorrow. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the off season.